welcome back. We are joined by Carolyn Glick, our colleague forward deployed in Jerusalem. She is the columnist par excellence for the Jerusalem Post. She is also the driving force behind a fabulous site, latma.co.il, which I commend to everyone as both entertaining and informative about what's going on. If you care about Israel, if you care about freedom, check out Latma. Anyway, Carolyn, welcome back to Secure Freedom Radio. It is always great to have you with us.
Oh, it's great talking to you, Frank.
Tell us most immediately what is going on in terms of these so-called final status talks. We're hearing that the Prime Minister of Israel has achieved a great accomplishment by getting into these talks, but we're also told that he may be at the cusp of agreeing to surrender much, if not virtually all, of the West Bank to the Palestinians. Give us the ground truth as you see it.
Well, I think that the truth is that the talks that the Americans announced with much pomp and ceremony is about to be inaugurated next week in Washington are going to fail, because there is no deal that Israel can offer the Palestinians or the Palestinians are going to accept, and therefore there'll be no deal. And these talks will fail just as every other attempt to have a negotiated peace between the Palestinians and the Israelis has failed over the past 17 years. And unfortunately, every other failure has led to a new round of Palestinian terrorism against Israel, and this will likely happen in this case as well. So nobody is very enthusiastic about these talks except maybe Obama and Secretary of State Clinton.
How does it play out, though, Carolyn Glick? We've got this going on. It's supposed to start relatively soon, as I understand it. We've got this theater that will be taking place presumably between now and the election, at the very least,
right,
here in the United States. Would you anticipate that if nothing happens, if it's failing, but nonetheless continuing through that period, that you'll see an intensification of pressure on Israel after the election that might result in a far worse outcome than failure, from my point of view?
Well, yeah, that's probably the most likely scenario. Everybody here is assuming that this charade is going to be drawn out until November, and that after the election, the administration is going to come down very hard on Israel.
Yeah, and Carolyn, we've also been hearing a lot about the possibility of a unilateral declaration of a Palestinian state to be recognized by the Obama administration, presumably, again, not to happen until after the election. But what's your bookmaking on that particular prospect?
I don't know. Some of it depends on what happens in the midterm elections in the states. It's not clear, when Clinton was hamstrung by the impeachment in '98, he ended up moving all of his attention to Israel and putting pressure on the Netanyahu government, the last one in '98, and then later the Barak government after '99, to try to get Israel and the Palestinians to sign a peace deal that would afford him a Nobel Peace Prize. It's not clear whether the Obama administration, President Obama, would behave similarly if the Republicans block his domestic agenda, if they take over the House, but there is a distinct possibility of that happening. At any rate, Israelis assume that the minute that the pressure is off to gain favor in the eyes of Israel's traditional supporters in the United States ahead of the elections, that the other shoe will drop and the Obama administration will lunge at Israel again.
This is a horrifying prospect, needless to say, to those of us, Carolyn Glick, who, like you, understand the importance of Israel, not just in its own right as a bulwark of freedom in the Middle East, but as a vital ally to the United States. Can you just play out for us, as you see it, what the scenario would be should this unilateral state be declared? What, for example, would Israel do in that circumstance? Do you know?
It's hard to know. I mean, the problem is that the United States has, since around 2007, been building a Palestinian army in Jordan, and they already have 4 battalions deployed in the West Bank, and they're demanding that Israel allow another 5 to be deployed, and these are U.S.-trained infantry forces, the likes of which Israel has never faced among the Palestinians. And so it's a very frightening thought that if the Palestinians unilaterally declare statehood, that an Obama administration will recognize that state, and that state would essentially, since it wasn't born, it won't be born of a negotiated peace deal with Israel. It will be in a de facto, if not a de jure, state of war with Israel, and would turn those American-equipped guns on Israel with American-trained shooters, and then Israel would be put into a position that would be very unpleasant, where the United States would effectively be siding with its enemies in a war against it. So now that is a prospect the Obama administration has really dangled over Israel repeatedly since it came into office 18 months ago, because it sent out feelers saying that it would support a unilateral declaration of Palestinian independence on several different occasions, and their context for these peace treaties, the peace negotiations that are going to be starting next week, are also very problematic. The Secretary of State Hilary Clinton said that it would be a two-state solution based on security and dignity, meaning security for Israel and dignity for the Palestinians. So the Palestinians, as my colleague Aaron Lerner here in Israel noted last week, the Palestinians claim that every single thing that Israel does to defend itself from terrorist attack is harmful to their dignity, and therefore not allowed. And so that sort of claim of dignity on every occasion from the Palestinian perspective, and increasingly from the American perspective, trumps Israel's right to self-defense.
Yeah. This, folks, is really what we're about here at Secure Freedom Radio, is trying to understand how these wars of ideas, if you will, can be of real material consequence to freedom, to security of places like Israel, but also to us here in the United States. So, Carolyn, this is really important stuff, and I hope you'll stay with us as we see this drama playing out, in the first instance with these final status talks, and then in the months that come with the election, with the Jewish votes secured one way or the other, how indeed our government treats yours, and more importantly, the incredibly important bilateral relationship. Carolyn, let me just, in the minute or so we have left, ask you very quickly to turn to another subject, which I know is weighing on you as well, and that is the threat to Israel, not from its friend, the United States, but from its unmistakable enemy, Iran. There's been very little response, as best I can tell, from Israel to the fueling of the Bushehr nuclear reactor. What's the sense on the ground there, and why not more of a response?
Well, the sense on the ground here is is one of foreboding, and the reason that there hasn't been a response, and I think wrongly, is because the government here feels that since Bushehr is a civilian installation, and it's under IAEA inspection regime, and the Russians claim that they're going to take the fuel rods out, that Israel would have a hard time making a case for bombing it. And so that's what happened. Amano, the head of the IAEA, came to Israel yesterday and met with a number of leaders here to try, apparently, to tell them that it would be okay. I find this very disturbing, because we had the same thing happen, of course, in North Korea, where the young nuclear reactor was supposed to be under IAEA inspection, and was, until the North Koreans took the fuel rods and threw the inspectors out, and then declared themselves a nuclear power. Right,
and we're seeing the same playbook, I'm afraid, very far advanced now in Iran. Carolyn Glick, as always, thank you for joining us, for your insights, for your terrific work at the Jerusalem Post, and for Latma, and for all of us in the free world. God bless you.
At Latma, we have a new song, the Iranian bomb song.
Check it out, latma.col.il.